would say, well, Hebrew means mankind.
So God, so when God was speaking with Adam, he was speaking with mankind. He was speaking the whole of mankind. And did Adam have children?
Of course.
And those children, and who's Cain and Abel? Whole of mankind?
Well, every child of Adam, including Adam and Eve, including Cain and Abel and Seth, wasn't it? They were all tarnished by Adam's sin. So do you remember what you have done 2,000 years ago? Well, I don't remember, but the Bible tells me.
Do you remember? I'm asking you a simple question.
I don't remember. No.
Right. Were you involved in the killing and ethnically cleansing a whole tribe 2,000 years ago?
Well,
were you guilty of that?
Well, the Bible would say that all Christians are, well, all human beings are tarnished by the sin of Adam.
I'm talking about yourself.
Oh, including me.
No, you individually, maybe inclusive of others, you actually ethnically cleansed the whole tribe 2,000 years ago. And are you guilty of that?
Well, I'm not guilty of every single sin, but
that particular one I'm giving an example of.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I am guilty of the sin of Adam.
I'm not talking about the sin of Adam now. 2,000 years ago, ethnically, a tribe was cleansed.
What are you referring to?
You don't even remember.
Well, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
So, if you don't even remember...
Well, I'm not sure what you're referring to.
If you don't even remember about that crime, then how can you even be guilty of that crime?
No cameras.
Do you?
No cameras.
Did you?
Cameras have been here for ages. Okay.
No, from the back. No cameras from the back's okay. No face. Spare the face. I don't want any paparazzi at my front door. Yeah. No front. no, not
do you?
The spare the face.
Do you?
Charmer.
Do you take the responsibility that you are guilty of that crime?
Well, I
did you make a choice to commit this genocide, cleansing?
What I'm trying to say is that I recognise my responsibility in Adam.
I'm not talking about Adam. I'm giving a specific example. I'm not going to give you any more detail.
Can you give me some more detail? Don't be so secretive.
Were you there? 2,000 years ago?
Well, I would say I was there. I would say all human beings were there in Adam.
The reason why I'm giving you this explanation is for this reason. What is a sin? A sin is an act of transgression of God's commands, God's law.
We would agree with that.
Which can be done only by an willing agent who's conscious and who has known or heard this command of God.
Yes.
This tripod doesn't know.
Well, this tripod is a sentient being, and this tripod isn't related in any way to Adam.
So I'm saying, you...
Is it this one? I'm not sure. I just... That's yours.
I am committing this crime. If you did that, then you'll be guilty. If you had no personal involvement with your own choice, then how can you be guilty of that crime?
Well, we could be, because the Bible says that Adam was our true representative.
I'm not talking about Adam, I'm talking about 2,000 years ago, and ethnic cleansing and genocide. You have no recollection, you were not there present because you were only born within the last 100 years, isn't that right?
It's true.
Yes, so it was you had no involvement with it. No court of law on planet Earth today, a just court of law, can punish you for a crime 2,000 years ago saying you did it. Because you had no active volition. No volitional will of yours was involved in committing this crime because you didn't even exist there in the form that you are. So we cannot say that I am guilty and you are guilty of the crime that happened there. Adam and Eve, when that particular disobedience occurred in the sight of God, when they ate from the tree, I wasn't responsible because I did not choose myself to eat from the tree. I did not give consent to eat from the tree. I have nothing to do with it. Now, because I have no partake in this matter of Adam and Eve, I am 0% guilty. I am totally innocent of that crime. Anyone who comes along and say I am guilty and I am to be punished is totally unfair and unjust. And this is just a brief response to the idea of Christian story of atonement where, Adam and Eve sin, everyone is guilty of that. Look, to be guilty, are you guilty of the crimes that happen, elsewhere in another country?
Well, let me add to that by saying, not only does the Bible teach that we all made the decision in Adam. So in a sense, as Adam reached out his hand, the whole of mankind did. But we all ratify, we all confirm that decision when we willfully sin. So we as human beings, which is kind of what you were saying, I think, all demonstrate we are Adam's children because we're all sinful human beings. None of us, I take it, here would say we're the perfect human being. And if I was to come up to you and say, great to meet you, my name's Ed, by the way, I'm perfect, I hope you will all laugh. I'd hope you will all laugh because you know that I'm not perfect. I'd either be mad or deluded. So we Christians will say, all human beings, not only do they sin in Adam, but we demonstrate that we are children of Adam when we willfully sin. And that's why we rejoice at this time of year, not least, because we understand Jesus to be the new Adam, who lived the life that Adam did, but took the punishment that only Adam and Adam's children deserve on the cross.
Okay, we'll come back to this point because this is what I said to remind me again of this issue. But just to the point that you've just made, in terms of punishing others for their sins, God taught the children of Israel differently. If you have read the book of Ezekiel, chapter 18, chapter 18 is a refutation of a view in which people believe that if, for example, what's your name? Ed.
Ed, yeah. And what's your name?
Mansur.
Mansur.
Nice meeting you.
Good to meet you. Happy Christmas.
We don't celebrate birth or death of any god, as you know.
In the general way.
Sure. So, Ed, if your father, God forbid, if he had committed any crime,
which he has, no cameras.
Say, for example,
spare the face. I don't want any paparazzi. From the back only. From the back. Don't worry. You can film from the back, not from the front.
Please. Respect him. Please.
Spare the face. Spare the. You charming man. Turn that off, please, if that's on.
Blur his face. That's another way of doing it.
Turn that camera off.
Sorry.
Can you turn that camera around?
Ed, if your father committed a crime of murder, God forbid, I'm sure he's a very gentleman.
Well,
okay.
The Bible says he may have committed murder in his heart, but anyway.
If he really committed a murder of killing real people, are you guilty of the crime?
I'm filming. Not from the front.
Sorry, you're interrupting the discussion like this with cameras.
Okay. I trust you.
If your father committed a crime of murder, would it be fair and just to punish you for what your father has done?
Well, that's a very interesting point, isn't it? Because...
So I'm the judge.
Okay.
And I came to realize your father committed a crime. I can't find him. I found you instead. So should we kill you on the electric chair?
Well, that is very interesting, isn't it? Can I stand in for my father?
Not stand in. I'm not talking about your voluntary goodwill of saving your father. I'm talking about, is it just, as a judge, to punish you for the crime of your father? According to Ezekiel chapter 18, it is not just. That's what I'm pointing to. And let me explain what it says there. Suppose there is a son who has a father, and then about 3 generations explain. If you have son, and he is righteous, the righteousness is on him. If you are bad, that sin doesn't transmit to him. He does not carry this guilt, and he should not be punished.
Right. No, I agree with that.
If you are good, he is bad, he is the one to be blamed and punished, not you. So this sin doesn't transfer. Ezekiel chapter 18 is a whole one thesis of a refutation of the belief that sins can transmit from father to son to children. The whole chapter is one thematic unity refuting this very idea. It starts with the proverb.
I'll read it again when I get home. I haven't read it this week.
In the children of Israel, they think how if someone eats grapes, and it starts with a proverb. Yes.
Yeah.
So, as you now realize, if you commit a crime and we don't find you, we find your son or your daughter, and judge says, I'm sorry, we have to kill you and punish you. You would say this is unjust. It's not fair. Justice demands that the one who commits the crime is paying the penalty. Your son and daughter, if they had nothing to do with your own crime, they should not be punished.
Well, I see what you're saying, and I see where you're going.
And that's why
But I would say
to punish
that's not
us,
always the case.
to punish us for the sins of Adam and Eve is totally unjust. But there's something else that you haven't realized.
Go on,
Adam and
Mansur.
Eve, when they realized their mistake,
Yes.
they sincerely turned to God and God forgave them. That's it. Is God not forgiving
He is.
and kind?
He is.
So when they made a mistake, did God forgive them?
Well, he promised at the time of the curse that there would one day be a child of Eve who would be the destroyer of the serpent.
But he didn't forgive them.
Well,
Is God forgiving in any way, in his
he
shape
opened
or form?
up. Well, yes, but we Christians would say that as God sort of judged and cursed Adam and Eve, if you like, because of the loving nature of God, and Muslims believe that God is loving. Even at the point that he was sort of cursing Adam and Eve, at that very moment there was still the promise that there will one day, which we call the proto-evangel, the proto-good news, that one day a son of Eve would come to overturn, to destroy the evil one and overturn the effects of the fall. And we believe that.
Okay, so let's now come to this point that we're trying to discuss.
back to a point about justice.
Jesus Christ.
Christians would say that in some circumstances you can have a representative who can step in.
Who is Jesus Christ in relation to God?
Well, we would say he's the second person of the Trinity, which I know you Muslims don't believe in.
So in relation to God, who is he?
We would say he's the Son. That's what we would say.
So he's God.
So, therefore, let me just finish this point. Therefore, Christians would say, the biggest problem that mankind faces is that we as sinful human beings will one day have to face the judgment of God. So the biggest problem we have as sinful human beings, that we are sinful and God is a holy and pure God, and that as we stand, we face the judgment of God. So the biggest problem facing mankind is God's judgment. The biggest problem, if I can put it that, is it comes from God. But the solution to that problem also comes from God in the person of His Son, Jesus Christ.
And
So
how is this a solution?
Well, we would say, Christians would say, that the solution comes, that God's solution to His problem is that Jesus takes the punishment that we deserve on the cross of Christ. So when we sin, if you like, we take God off the throne and enthrone ourselves. We decide what's right and wrong, and that's rebellion, that's sin. And Jesus comes off the throne of heaven itself. He dethrones himself and puts himself on the cross to take the punishment that only we deserve.
Okay, let me try
So if I could just finish this
Please
point.
finish.
Yeah,
If you need to, if you need time to explain your point, please do. Just stop me and
the example
carry
that's
on.
often given by Christian preachers in the pulpits and so forth is if you were caught speeding down Park Lane at 100 miles an hour and you went to court, and next week you're called up before the judge, and the judge said, Mansur, you need to pay £1,000 fine